أشرقت نفسي بنور من فؤادي حينما رددت يا رب العباد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. So if you remember last time we were talking about when the Prophet ﷺ used to isolate himself in the cave, and I said to you that I would backtrack a little bit and talk about his wives a little bit, and I will tell you why I want to do that. Because the incident in the cave was a huge thing that happened in the life of the Prophet ﷺ, and it's very important how Khadija radiallahu anha handled that situation. So it's important now to reflect and go back and just talk a little bit about his wives, because remember that these were not just random women that he just married. These were women selected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for him, even though we know that some of the wives he was commanded to marry them, and some of them he chose to marry them. But at the end of the day, it was all Allah's decision, right? Like, for example, the person you married him because this is what Allah wrote for you. This is the person that Allah chose for you. You married brother X, you married brother Y, you married brother Z, because Allah chose these people for you. So, similarly, Allah selected, do you know how many wives he had?
13.
I used to think it was 13 as well, but it was 11, yes. Yes, including Maria. So he had 11 wives, and unfortunately, very little is known about them, or very little is asked about them. People don't really, try to find out, who are these women. The thing is that when you're interested in someone, like for example, let's say Noman Ali Khan, okay? Everybody listens to Noman Ali Khan on YouTube, or used to listen to Noman Ali Khan on YouTube. I don't know who, I'm just using this as an example, but when you hear somebody and you look up to them and you learn from them, or you give them a certain status, it's natural that you're curious to know who is he married to, how many children does he have, where did he study, what is his background, is he Pakistani, is he Indian, where are his parents from, was his house practicing, or did he just become, you have all these questions in your mind, right? And people who are not practicing, they want to know about, for example, I don't know, the Kardashians, or some, actor or actress or something like that, right? That's why you have all these magazines which sell in millions. Why do magazines about celebrities sell in millions? Because everyone wants to know about them. You have nothing else to do but to find out about other people's lives and who they're married to and how many times they were married. If nothing else, some of the searches on Google, like sometimes if you type a name, let's say you're looking for someone completely different, but some celebrity shares the same name. As soon as you type it in Google, right, that celebrity's full name comes up, because you can imagine that's the most popular search. Everybody wants to know. Like, for example, if you know somebody called Justin and you're looking for some Justin, some scientist or some, I don't know, some doctor or something, and his name is Justin. As soon as you type Justin, what do you think is going to come up? Justin Bieber. Right? Because this is the most sought after person. Everybody wants to know who is he, where did he come from, what is his background, so how much more should it be for the most beloved, the most honorable, the most noble of human beings created on the face of the earth? We should be even more desperate to know about the Prophet ﷺ and all the little details of his life. So that's one of the reasons we are studying Seerah, because, among other things, we should want to know that, who was this noble individual and what exactly was his life about. And so a big part of his life is his marriage and his wives, right? Like I said, when you're looking at some celebrity's life, one of the main things you want to know is, oh, I want to see a picture of his wife or her husband, if it's a female celebrity, you want to see her husband. You want to see, who's the guy that she married, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala restricted this number to 11 women, and only these 11 women. And in the Quran, Allah said that you can't tabaddal, you can't exchange them for anybody. If one of them dies or if you decide to divorce one, you can't swap her for somebody else. These are his wives and these will remain his wives. And they had specific rulings about them. So number one, does anybody know what were the specific things which are different from every other woman? The rules that were specific to the wives, they don't pertain to anybody else. Yes?
We cannot marry anybody else.
Sorry?
We cannot marry if
Yes, that's right. So that's why they're called Ummahatul Mu'mineen. They are the mothers of the believers. They are haram for anybody to marry. Okay? Any believer to marry. Anything else? يُؤْتِهِمْ أَجْرَهُمْ مَرَّتَيْنِ. They get twice the reward for everything they do. So if they lived for 20 Ramadans, they get 40 Ramadans. If they did 2,000 salawats, they get 4,000. If they did 3 Hajj in their life, they get the reward of 6. Everything is doubled. But when the reward is doubled, so is the punishment and the sins. So they are just as much at risk of making mistakes. This is the thing about, for example, going to Makkah and Medina and Ramadan, where your good deeds are multiplied. It's really nice that the good deeds are multiplied and you're really excited, but then at the same time the sins are multiplied. So if you do a bad action, that's also multiplied. So you have to be really cautious that, for example, you don't go to Makkah and backbite, or you don't slander someone, or you don't disobey your husband, or you don't things that we consider are little things, they might become serious things, right? Remember, that we tend to belittle sins, right? We tend to say, oh, it's just this, oh, it's just that. But if you think about it, for example, you have big diseases in the medical field, and then you have small things like flus and things like that. And if you look at statistics, sometimes you will see that it's the small things that are killing people more than the big things. Like there's few people I know with liver cirrhosis or a serious problem with their liver, but there's lots of people who are dying of little things like, malaria and dengue fever and this fever and things which you think is just a fever, and there's people are dying in their thousands with that fever. So sometimes the small sins are more dangerous than what you think. You think that, oh, alhamdulillah, I don't commit zina, I don't drink alcohol, I don't do riba. But you don't realize that those little things are adding up and they might bring your downfall. So so they get their reward is multiplied twice for everything. The third thing that is specific to them is that they are obliged to propagate Islam. They are obliged to pass on the message of Islam, and Allah stated that in the Quran. And they are obviously in a position to give fatwa and Islamic rulings, because they are, you could say, residing in the house of the Prophet ﷺ and obviously learning firsthand from him. So for example, once a woman came to the Prophet ﷺ and she wanted to understand how to cleanse herself after her monthly period. And so he explained to her, and then he said to her, he said that, take a piece of cotton and dip it in musk and, use it to clean yourself. And so she said, I'm sorry. She said, I don't understand what you mean. So he said that just, clean yourself with it. She said, I don't understand what you're saying. He said, Subhanallah, Subhanallah. I mean, he was shy because she wants him to elaborate in detail what she should do with that piece of cotton, and he's shy. So he started saying, Subhanallah, Subhanallah, Subhanallah. He said, just cleanse yourself with it. And she still didn't understand. So Aisha radiallahu anha came And she pulled her away. She took her behind, and then she explained to her exactly what she had to do, that the place from which the blood flows, you use that piece and you wipe that area, so that, because that blood has got a bad smell. It has a stench. It's not something pleasant or clean. So you cleanse yourself and you make it smell nice in that area. And so she, broke it down for her and explained it to her. So yeah, they were obliged to pass on the information and the knowledge of the deen. So this was something specific for them. And does anybody? Let's take some names, because sometimes you ask people and they will say, "Oh, from the wives of the Prophet ﷺ is Amina, Fatima." They've got it all mixed up. So can I have their names? Anybody know their names?
Sauda, Maria,
Okay.
Maria, Sauda,
Khadija,
Khadija,
Aisha, Juwayriya, Maymuna, Salama, Zainab, Safiya. Yeah, but he was married to one. Yeah, he was married to one. Okay, and Aisha. I think nobody mentioned Aisha until now. You already said. Yes, he was married to Zainab bin Jahsh.
Something stuck in my mind.
And there's one more that maybe you guys don't know, but let's try. Anybody? It's very important, his marriage to this particular Sahabiya. Yes, Ummu Habiba. She was the daughter of Abu Sufyan, yes. So you see, if you think about it, some of these marriages, he was not marrying for desire. And we already said that before. But, some time ago, somebody sent me this video. It was, I don't know, it was some, you have, especially in India and Pakistan, you have these little cults or these sects where you will have an elderly man who everybody sort of comes to, and they ask him for dua, and I think he's the Peer, or I don't know what they call him. And in this video, right, these women, I mean, they're like, married women, they come to him, and he's embracing them, and he's holding them for a long time. And then he starts getting up and he starts dancing with them, and I'm thinking that, is this for him or is this for them? I mean, he's having a great time. I mean, any man would love to be a peer, yeah.
Enjoying himself.
Yeah, he's having the time of his life. And then it's like woman after woman, this woman goes and then another woman comes, and they have to all embrace him, and they have to stand in this embrace for, what is this, So, and then it is said that basically, he cares about his people and he has concern for them. I'm imitating what we say about the Prophet ﷺ, that he married these women out of concern for them. They are part of his ummah, right? I don't want anyone to get the idea that what this joker is doing with his followers is what the Prophet ﷺ was doing, na'udhu billahi min dhalik, because that will take us out of Islam if we think something like that. But that's what they're making it sound like now. They say, oh, we care, we have concern for our people. And they're mirroring it with, the Prophet ﷺ had concern for his people. But the Prophet ﷺ, if you look at his appearance, he was fair, but he didn't have like a pale complexion. He had color in his face. He had a reddish complexion. His hair would go up to his ears or up to his shoulders, a little below his ears. His shoulders were broad. He had very little, scarce hair on his chest. He was not very tall and he was not short. He was of medium height and medium build. His stomach and his chest were in one line. He was not heavy or what you'd call slightly fat or anything like that. And I'm going to ask you to move, Mariam, in a minute. And he had a beautiful smile, and there was they say that the way he smiled it was just the most beautiful thing that people had seen. And one of the Sahaba, this is when he was in his 50s. He tried to compare the full moon on a full moon night. He said, I looked at the moon and then I looked at my Nabi. And he said, by Allah, he said the Prophet ﷺ was more beautiful than the full moon. And, if you've seen a full moon on a full moon night, it is the most beautiful thing you can see in the sky. And this is in his 50s, he's saying that he was the most beautiful. So what about when he's in his 20s, right? And it's at that age that he marries a woman who has been widowed twice. Khadija radiallahu anha, she was married the first time, her husband passed away, and she had one son with him. And then she married a second time, and her second husband passed away, and she had a son and a daughter from him. So she already had 3 probably adult, you call them children, but they're not children. And, so we're saying that he is from the head of the Quraysh. He is good looking, he is handsome, he is noble, he is trustworthy. He can have any woman or any women of his choice that he wants. Okay. But the first person he marries is a woman who has been married twice before, who is much older than him, etc. I'll come back to Khadija radiallahu anha, inshallah. When she passes away, while he's married to her, that's the other point, he doesn't marry anyone else. And remember, he gets prophethood while he's married to her, but he doesn't marry anybody else. And the time that he's married to her, those are the happiest years of his life. When she passes away at the age of 65, and he is 50 years old at that time. For 3 years after she passes away, he does not marry anyone. And at the age of 50, a man is he's still going strong. It's not like he doesn't have desire for women. There's lots of 50-year-olds who will happily get married or remarried if, for example, they lose their spouse. But he doesn't marry. 3 years later, he marries a woman who is again older than him. He marries Sauda. She is 55 and she has 5 children, if you can call them children. They're adults. So he marries her because of her situation. Okay. Again, after Khadija passed away, again he could have married anyone of his choice. There was a man, he was riding with his daughter. He was going for Hajj. And he stopped. And his daughter asked the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ at that time was with a Sahaba called Fadl. And she asked the Prophet ﷺ a question. And she said that, what does a woman do if her father is too elderly and he can't, make the journey to come for Hajj? And the Prophet ﷺ is thinking, what kind of a question is this? Her father is with her. And Fadl kept looking at this woman. And he kept turning Fadl's face away because she was a young woman. And the Shurrah, the people who explain these narrations, they said that this man, he was hopeful that the Prophet ﷺ will marry his daughter. And he didn't know how to approach him. So he made an excuse that let's ask him a question so that he sees how eloquent my daughter is, how intelligent she is when she speaks, or she asks a question. So he was trying to basically propose in an indirect way by, attracting him towards his daughter. And the fact that Fadl keeps turning around to look at her, you can imagine she must have been an attractive woman. Why will you turn around and look at somebody who's not attractive or who's elderly or something like that? She must have been, sorry? Fadl was a Sahabi. He was with the Prophet ﷺ when this woman stopped to ask him a question. So he was just with him, and while she's asking the Prophet ﷺ the question, he keeps turning around to look at her because she's attractive. And the Prophet ﷺ keeps turning his face around. And the second time, he completely turned his face around because he did not want him to, look at this woman. But the Prophet ﷺ answered her question and he went away. But I'm trying to say to you that people would have very happily married him to their young daughters. This would have been the best thing that would have happened to them. is that the Prophet ﷺ marries one of their daughters, because he was known, he was, his reputation in the community was so good. But in spite of that, he chooses a woman with 5 kids, Sauda. That's the second woman he marries. The third woman he marries is a virgin. She is Aisha radiallahu anha, who is, the marriage is through instruction from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through the dream that he saw. But there are many virgins. He could have what do you think, that in Makkah there were no virgins apart from Aisha? There were many virgins. But again, this was instructed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether he finds her attractive, whether he doesn't, he marries her. And yes, of course, she is one of his most beloved wives later on. But he is forming, like we said, some bonds and some ties. Remember, behind these marriages is not desire. That's the point that I'm trying to make. Behind these marriages is a leader, is a prophet, is someone who is trying to establish a new community. So he is marrying with all of these things in his mind. He's marrying for a purpose. It's not like you and me, you see the guy, do we find him attractive? Is his job description good? What about his mom, is she going to give me headache? These are the kind of things we're looking at. Because it's all personal gain. With him, it's not personal gain. It's not personal at all. And other than Aisha, none of them are virgins. Even Hafsa, the daughter of Umar ibn al-Khattab, she was divorced when he married her. And he married Ramla, who is Habiba. Her name was Ramla. And once he married Ramla, who's the daughter of Abu Sufyan. Abu Sufyan is one of the leaders of the Quraysh. And he used to instigate a lot of these wars. Like the Battle of Khandaq. It was, what's the word? It was basically, planned out by Abu Sufyan. He's the one who sort of set it up. But once the Prophet ﷺ married Ramla, and the Quraysh said, come on, plan another battle with Muhammad. And he said, no. He said, I'm ashamed to fight with my daughter's in-laws. Because now this is it's like a shame in the community, right? If your daughter marries somebody, you're not going to go and pick a fight with her parents or her brothers and sisters and her family, because now you've got nasab, right? You've got relationship with them. The same thing happens when he marries Safiya bint Huyay al-Akhtab. She is from the tribe of, does anybody know? Very well-known tribe. One of the Jewish tribes. Banu Nadir. And when he marries her, the same thing happens. Banu Nadir back off. They say, how can we fight with the in-laws of one of the girls who has married him? She's from our family, from our tribe. We can't fight her in-laws. So, you see, this is all being done with a purpose behind it, with a noble purpose behind it. It's no personal gain here. Also, Salama that he married, when her husband passes away, she had 3 children, adults, by the time he married her. They're all, and another interesting thing, he marries Khadija radiallahu anha when he is, how old? 25. He stays with her until he is 50. She passes away when she's 65, and he is 50. He doesn't marry anyone until the age of 53. When did he pass away? 63. So in 10 years, he did all of these remainder of his marriages, because there was a reason behind them. If he just wanted women, why won't he get them when he's 25? That's the time to get as many women as you want. That's the time that you're a young man, you're youth. Between 53 and 63, in 10 years, he marries about 10 women. Because it's all for a more noble gain. It's for another, the aim is higher than just zawaj. Juwayriya, another example. Sorry, I'm not speaking to you. when he married Juwayriya bint al-Harith, and a lot of people, they don't even know that she was one of the wives of the Prophet ﷺ. I remember when I named my daughter Juwayriya, and we went to the hospital reception to have her name registered. These are Arabs sitting at the reception. He couldn't pronounce the name. And he said, Juri. We said, no, Juwayriya. The common name nowadays is Juri. They all love this name, Juri, which means a little rose. Juwayriya means a little Damascene or a little pink rose. And the Prophet ﷺ, he gave this name to one of his wives who was called Barra. And he said, this is not a good name. So he changed the name to Juwayriya. And we kept saying to him, we said Juwayriya, and he said Juriya, and we said no, Juwayriya, because he's going to write down the wrong thing, and then this is going to go on her birth certificate, and it's going to become a huge problem. So we had to make sure he understands. He said, what is this name? And so my husband said to him, he said, this is the name of your mother. And he got really angry. He said, what do you mean? He said, how dare you say that to me? And my husband said, this is the name of one of the Ummahat al-Mu'mineen. He said, you don't know? He said, Juwayriya bint al-Harith. And then he was like, oh, okay. And then he wrote it down. But I'm saying that there are people who are Arabs, who are Muslim, and they don't know that this was one of the wives of the Prophet ﷺ. Anyway, when he married Juwayriya bint al-Harith, does anybody know what happened? She was a barakah, sorry? Yes, she was a barakah to her nation, because when he married her, in their hundreds or thousands, her people, the people from her tribe were freed. So again, a lot of hikmah in him marrying Juwayriya. Yes, it is said she was very beautiful, she was very attractive, but there must have been many other women who are attractive. Do you think that there are no other attractive women in Makkah? Of course there are. He could have married, like I said, any woman of his choice. But these were the specific marriages, you could say, arranged by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for him for a noble purpose and a noble aim. And each wife had a specific trait, and it's good to get some idea about each of his wives, so that when somebody mentions one of his wives, you know a little bit about her. It's not like some unknown topic that, you have no idea, you're, completely blank about who this woman is. So, inshallah, I will try and give you a little bit about each of them. And another interesting thing is that each of his wives had different characteristics, different traits, and a different personality. I think, as far as I know, no two are exactly alike. And there is again hikmah in this, because it helped to show people how to deal with people of different characteristics, different nature. Somebody who is constantly worshipping Allah, who's constantly busy in ibadah. Someone who's very playful. Someone who's very light-hearted, and she likes to joke and she likes to run and play. Someone who is very serious. Someone who is very generous. She likes to give a lot of sadaqah. So the Prophet ﷺ dealt with each of these women, and as a result, he set an example and showed us how to deal with people who have, these kind of different traits. Whether they are serious, whether they are jovial, whether they are, they like to do a certain ibadah, for example, fasting or sadaqah or something like that. So their specific traits and his dealing with them specifically teaches us how to deal with people of, different natures. If they were all similar or all the same, we would have only known how to deal with, for example, a person who's very playful. We wouldn't know that how... We could say that, the Prophet ﷺ doesn't know how it feels to live with a serious person, but he does. Or we would say, the Prophet ﷺ doesn't know what it's like to live with someone who's constantly reading books, but he does, because somebody who's very serious about their ibadah, they're constantly doing a certain action. So, you can use that as an analogy and see how to deal with people of different, characteristics and personalities. So, starting with Khadija radiallahu anha. she was the closest to him in lineage. And I will speak about her first and lead you on to the story of, because last time, remember, we started talking about him going into the cave. So we will try and go up to there. But I might have to stop halfway through the story because I wanted to show you Salah, and that might take some time. We have some time, inshallah. Maybe we can finish the story of Khadija radiallahu anha. Okay. Her lineage joins with the lineage of the Prophet ﷺ, in the 5th generation. So they have the same great grandfather, number 5. Okay, so she was Khadija bint Khuwaylid ibn Asad, that was the father of Khuwaylid, ibn Abdul Uzza, the father of Asad, ibn Qusay. And you remember we mentioned Qusay? Right. So Qusay is where the Prophet ﷺ came from, and Qusay is where Khadija radiallahu anha comes from. So she's the closest to him in lineage, in that sense. Okay. And she was born in Makkah 68 years before Hijrah. Because remember, soon after Hijrah she passes away. So she's born, much before that. And she was a respectable and noble woman, because at that time in Makkah, there were women who would drink, who would do zina, or who were prostitutes. There were women who would take their clothes off and go around the Kaaba. There were women who would sing and dance. There were women who would do all kinds of what you would call loose things. She was different. She was of noble background, noble lineage, and she kept away from these things, and she preserved her, her self-respect. Okay, and like I said to you earlier, she was married twice. Both her husbands had died. She had a son from one and a son and a daughter from the second one. So she had 3 children. She was a businesswoman, but due to her nobility and due to her, she was an honorable woman. She would not travel far to do her business, right? Because as a businesswoman, you have to go purchase goods and then either bring them back and sell them, or you take goods and go far to sell them. You have to do this kind of thing in trade. She didn't want to do that, so what she would do is she would have to use a, what you would call like an ambassador or a, representative who would do it on her behalf. She had used people in the past such as Abu Sufyan, Umayyah bin Khalaf, and people of their category. And she was really struggling because she kept feeling she had been cheated, she had been lied to, her money had been taken. They would come back and they would say, oh, we only got this much for your goods. Now, how is she to prove that they're lying? Because she knew that they've taken some of the money and they're only giving me some, but how can she prove that? So she would have to just accept the loss, right? So there was a lot of these kind of ups and downs, and she was desperately looking for somebody who is honest and truthful. And so she heard about this young man called Muhammad, and they said, he's known as Sadiq al-Amin, and this is before prophethood. He had his reputation, established. And so she said, okay. She said, let me try him out. And it was known he didn't have any bad traits before Islam. So again, just like the women were doing, loose things, so were the men. Drinking, zina, riba, you name it. They were all like involved in all these. Like these people, Abu Sufyan and, Umayyah bin Khalaf, who we mentioned, who worked for Khadija, who, did some business trips for her. You can see they were dishonest. They took the woman's money and they lied to her. Or they will, bring goods which are not very good. So when she sells them, she doesn't make much money. So you can already see that the Prophet ﷺ, he was different from these, the usual crowd, the usual, men. So she had a servant called Maysara. And this time she said, you know what, I'm going to send you as a sort of like an onlooker. So you go with Muhammad and you stay with him and you keep a close eye on my goods and on my wealth. And you tell me, what he does with it. Because she had suffered enough losses. So now she said, you know what, now I'm going to make sure that I don't have the same problem again. So Maysara went out with him. And he observed, that the Prophet ﷺ, he was a very pleasant companion. He smiled during the journey. He was very kind. He made sure that Maysara is comfortable. If, for example, Maysara is tired, he would take that into consideration. If he's hungry or thirsty, if he's cold, he would give him a blanket. So Maysara is observing all this, and he finds all this very strange because he's traveled with people in the past, and he has never seen anything like this. And he notices he's very polite and gentle in the way he speaks. He's not rough. Because Maysara is a servant. Remember, Maysara is not a businessman or an ambassador or a representative like the Prophet ﷺ. He is just a servant of Khadija radiallahu anha. And you see, even today, you see how these people speak to their servants, right? Like, Yalla, Surah, Muhammad, Ishkida, this, that. They, as if this is like your father's servant, These are human beings. You're paying them a salary. They're actually doing a job. They're not slaves. So this was a servant, but the Prophet ﷺ, he speaks to him very politely, very gently. He deals with him as if he's his son. That's how he's dealing with Maysara. Anyway, during their journey, they're going towards Syria. They stop halfway. And the Prophet ﷺ, he goes and he rests under a tree. He sits down there. Near the tree, there was a monastery. Sorry, yes. Man. So there's a monastery near this tree. And there is a monk who comes out of this monastery. And he's just standing and he's looking at the Prophet ﷺ from a distance. And so Maysara notices, that this monk has come out and he's looking at the Prophet ﷺ. So he just picks up on that, but he doesn't do anything. And then this monk, he starts walking towards the Prophet ﷺ. So Maysara comes. And the Prophet ﷺ has, again, he's not reached prophethood. He's about 25 years old right now, or under 25. And Maysara comes to the monk and he says, what are you doing? And so the monk says, I'm just looking at this man. And he says, why? Why are you looking at him? And so the monk, he says that in our books, our Injil and, Torah, it says that nobody will sit under this tree except a Nabi. Now these terms, they were unknown to these people. They had never heard of Nabi, Rasul, Halal, Haram, Mustahab. These are all terms that the Prophet ﷺ introduced. So he said to Maysara, he said to the monk, he said, what's a Nabi? So, the monk, he explained to him, he said he's somebody who gets wahi, gets revelation from Allah. And he gives him like a definition, right? And then he just looks at the Prophet ﷺ from far and he just goes away.
Yeah, right. What are you talking about?
Yeah, so Maysara is thinking, that this guy's lost the plot, right? So I'm just here with this guy, we're trying to do some business and I'm going to see what this guy's like. So he goes back and they continue the journey and they go to Syria. And when they go there, Maysara notices that the Prophet ﷺ, his way of purchasing goods on behalf of Khadija is very different from anything he has ever seen before. If somebody, let's say for example, you have a driver, okay? And so you say to the driver, here's a list, please go to the Khudar market and get me 1 box of apples, 1 box of bananas, and 1 box of oranges. What do you think the driver is going to do? He's going to go to the market He's going to say, give me a box of apples, give me a box of bananas and a box of oranges. Stick it in the car. Right? And he's going to come home. What about if this driver is buying some apples and oranges for himself? What do you think he's going to do then? He's going to go to at least 3 or 4 shops. He's going to check the price. He's going to check the produce. He's going to open the box. And he's going to pick up 2 or 3 apples, look underneath, make sure I'm not being cheated or scammed. Am I getting good apples for the money that I'm paying, right? This is how most of us are. When it has to do with our own self, our nafs, our family, we want the best. But when it has to do with somebody else, they asked me to do this, I've done it, I fulfill the amana. It's an amana when somebody asks you to do something. A sister pays for me, for my taxi to come here and go back. So, she gives me a certain amount of money, and then I have to, use the taxi to come and go. And so somebody said to me some time ago, or actually recently, they said, it doesn't matter whether you get Uber or, because I'm comparing prices to see which one is less, so that I spend as less as possible of this person's money. So somebody said to me, they said, come on, what difference does it make? It's not your money. That's exactly our mentality. I said to that person, I said, you know what? If it was my money, I probably wouldn't bother. I'd say, Uber, Kareem, who cares? Because it's my money. But because it's somebody else's money, right? Now, it's like a huge mountain on me. This is amana now. I will answer to Allah for every halala that I spend from this money. And how I spend it. And how cautious I was. It's a number of things. It's not just, today's trip was 24 riyals. Okay, here, thank you very much. I will answer to Allah that, did I take care? Was I concerned? Did I do the same for that person that I would have done for myself? This is all part of amana. And amana is something very serious. It's not a small thing. We think that, who cares? It's just somebody's, just get it and give it to them. Or for example, marriage proposals, when we look for our own daughter or our own son, we're going to check everything out top to bottom. She has to be like some supermodel. She has to be this, she has to be that. Make sure, do you have any fertility issues? And if it's for somebody else, we'll just say, I heard of such and such girl, here you go. So we have to be careful when we do something for someone. Either don't do it. Nobody is forcing you to do anything for anyone, right? Don't do anything for anyone. If you think that you are fickle and you are not going to give it your utmost integrity, it's better you don't do it. Because otherwise you'll find yourself in a problem on Yawm al-Qiyamah. If you do it, then do it with ihsan. Do it properly. The same thing with everything that you do. Like for example, this dars I do. Either I shouldn't do it, no one is forcing me, no one's putting pressure on me to do the dars. But if I do it, if I have volunteered to do it, then I should give it my best. I should make sure that I go to the best resources, I get the best information that will be the most useful for you, and at least give it my best. Of course, I will still have shortcomings and I will still fall short. But at least I made an effort to do my best. So when you do something for someone, it becomes more important than when you do it for yourself. Because what you do for yourself, yes, of course, Allah will ask you about it, but when you're doing something for somebody else, this is a different matter. Now we're going into amana. And amana is a very serious matter. Why do you think the Prophet ﷺ was called as-sadiqul ameen? People used to give him their belongings to look after when they would go, before Islam. That's why one of the things he was stuck with when he's leaving Mecca to run away is people's belongings. He still got people's things. And he had to leave them with somebody else and say, please return this to such and such, or when such and such comes back from their journey, So amana is something that you don't see in 90% of people or 98% of people. Honestly, there must be 1 or less than 1% of people that I personally, in my dealings, I have seen who really have who give amana its right. That if they do something for someone, they do it 100%. Otherwise, don't do it. So he observed, right, that the Prophet ﷺ, when he's selecting these goods for Khadija radiallahu anha, he's going through each and everything, and he's going to more than one vendor, and he's comparing the goods, comparing the prices. Maysara had never seen anything like this. The people in the past, they'd just come, they would buy the things, take them back, and give them to Khadija and say, here you go. And then he saw, that he's bargaining. That's the other thing. If you're buying something for someone, if for example, your sister-in-law says, oh, please buy me this gold pendant when you come next time. You'll go and you'll say, can I please have this gold pendant? And you'll pay the money and you'll go back because she said that she's going to give you the money for it. But when you're buying it for yourself, now you're going to stand there and you're going to say, Akhir kam akhir sir. You're going to say that, what is your last best price that you can give me? Even if you can save just 25 riyals, you're going to get on this man's case to save you that 25 riyals. When it's somebody else's, you say, okay, here you go, it's 200 riyals, okay, here you go, 200. And you take the pendant and go, give it to your sister-in-law, tell her it was 200, and she gives you the money. I mean, in essence, this is all fine. I'm not saying that you have done anything wrong, but have you done it with ihsan, with full integrity? No. So this is the other thing he noticed. He noticed that the Prophet ﷺ, he checked the goods, he bargained for the best price he could get for her, and he got the goods, and they went back. So when they went back, these goods were really good. Khadija had never received such a good shipment of products. She sold them and she made a lot of profit because she was able to sell them for a good price. Because the quality was good, she was able to sell it for a good price and she got more profit than she has ever got. She said to Maysara, she said, go back with him for another trip. Get me more things with him. So they went again. They came back second time. And she goes, tell me about this man. Because she's puzzled as well. Sometimes you think, oh, it's just a fluke, that he just got all this amazing stuff. But the second time as well, so she asks Maysara. So he says to her, he says, look, I have not seen a more honest person than this. He said, I have not seen a person who deals better with other people than this individual. He said, I have not seen someone who is more generous, who is more polite, who is more humble, who is more kind than this individual. He said, I've just never seen anybody like this in my dealings, and he says that this guy is like, 1 in a million. I've never seen anybody like this. Khadija radiallahu anha decides to marry him because, mashallah, she's good looking, she's wealthy, she has status. What does she not have? She doesn't have a husband, which is what she needs. She needs a companion, she needs a partner. And again, even with Khadija radiallahu anha, she was one of the noble women of Quraysh. A lot of people wanted to marry her. They had pursued her, and they would have liked to tie the knot with her.
Even if she was old?
Even though she was old, there were older people who wanted to marry her. Like for example, let's say she was 40. There would have been a 40 or a 42-year-old or a 45-year-old who would have very happily married her. But until now, she had not married anyone. And perhaps, you see, the thing is that this is what we believe about, for example, reverts, right? Allah knows what is inside us. We don't know. We just see people from the outside. The people who Allah guides to Islam, and it is Allah who guides them. It's not you or me, or they read this or they saw this. I mean, yes, those are the steps they took. But ultimately, Allah chose this one and that one and that one and that one is going to become Muslim out of the millions of non-Muslims. So Allah sees something inside them, something pure, something good, that Allah brings them to Islam. Because bringing them to Islam is their ticket out of the hellfire, right? This is the best thing that could happen to them. And so similarly, out of all the people, perhaps there was something in this woman that Allah saw that she did not marry anyone else, and you can see how she was looking for someone honest. She must have been an honest and straightforward person herself. And then, she decides that, okay, I want to marry the Prophet ﷺ. But how is she going to do that? Yes.
Was it common in those days for an older woman to marry?
I'm not sure, but I don't think it was uncommon. I think it was not really like, I don't think that it was something shocking. Like, I think today, if somebody marries someone who's 4 years older than them, or 5 years, like if the woman is 4 or 5 years older than the man, everybody's like, do you know? She's marrying someone who's 4 years older than her. And everybody's like, jaws are dropping, it's like the gossip of the century, that, oh my God, what has happened to this woman, So I don't think it was like that, but I don't know if it was common. So she decides she wants to marry him, but now how is she going to go about it? Because this is a young man, and I think that's why she's hesitant, because he's much younger than her. I think it might have happened if it was a few years apart, but somebody who's in her 40s and she wants to marry someone who's in his 20s, this is something that she's hesitating as well. So she's like thinking, what shall I do? So in those days, as it happens even today, is you just sort of like touch the conversation. You just sort of start off the thought process. So let's say let's say there is somebody that I've seen who I think is a good proposal for my daughter. Some young man I've seen, and I think, oh yeah, I think this is a really good suitor for my daughter. But I'm thinking, how do I go to him and say that, would you like to marry my daughter? I mean, number one, what if he turns around and says no? That's really insulting and embarrassing. And number two, it's going to make him really uncomfortable, and it's going to be really awkward for him to say no to me, right? So what I do is, I say, okay, Rabina, go and speak to this brother or his family and just mention Maryam. Just say, Abdullah, she has a daughter, and, I'm sorry, I'm just using it as an example.
Miriam, you know what's happening, right?
And so I say that, and I say that, okay, Rabina, please go and just like, start talking about Maryam in front of them and see what they say. Do they show any interest or not? Because it will be easier for them to say to Rabina, oh my God, you know what? I don't even want to talk about that girl. Or for them to say, yeah, actually, that's really interesting. It'll be easier for them than for them to say it to me, to my face, right? So you just like make the process easier. Yeah. Even today in Saudi Arabia, amongst the Arabs, this is how they do it generally. They will use some middle person to go and just, mention, some mutual friend to just go and mention. And then the way it looks is as if Rabina has just suddenly remembered Maryam and mentioned it to them. But what they don't know is Rabina and me, we've had a conversation and Rabina is gone and now it's all set up,
Rabina was working on your behalf.
Yes, that's right. They don't know that. They think, oh, Rabina came to see us and she suddenly remembered Maryam and she mentioned her, right? So that's what it's supposed to look like. Similarly, she selects somebody called Nafisa bint Munayya to go and just mention her to the Prophet ﷺ. So Nafisa goes and she sees the Prophet ﷺ, visits him, and she says to him, she says, wouldn't it be nice if you married Khadija? Now it looks like she just visited him and she thought, oh, why don't I just mention this? But what has happened is they've already planned that out. Khadija and her, Khadija has said to her that mention me to him. So she has gone and, she says, wouldn't it be nice, she's noble, she is a woman of honor, she is a respectable woman, she's trustworthy, honest. Let's wait for the adhan, inshallah. Allah Akbar, gets messed up. Okay, so so she goes and she says to him, you know, that she mentions some good things about Khadija radiallahu anha to the Prophet ﷺ, and she says, you know, she's like this, she's like that. So the Prophet ﷺ agrees.
So he says, right.
Yeah.
That's actually very good.
Yes,
I'm interested to say
yes.
something.
That's right. So he expresses that he's you know, that he agrees to this proposal, and you know, he'd like to go ahead. This is the best, the greatest, the most amazing thing that could have happened to Khadija radiallahu anha. Because through this marriage, and because of this marriage, she becomes the first person to accept Islam. Had it not been for this marriage, perhaps she would have still become Muslim, but like everybody else, you know, later on down the line, you know, through hearing about Islam. But the way she gets Islam almost in her lap, this is the greatest blessing on Khadija radiallahu anha. More than anything else that anyone can imagine. And she doesn't even know. She's just, of course, she's marrying him for good reasons. You know, he's an honest man. Honesty is really, it's a disappearing quality nowadays. It's disappearing. I see people who pray 5 times a day, beards, this, that, you know, dishonest. And I think, if this guy is not honest, then who's honest? You know, I lose faith in myself when I see people like that lying. Because you start thinking that, you know, how can this person tell a lie? And you see, these are the 2 main things that his laqab is based on. Truthfulness, sadiq, and amin, amana. Person who is, you know, it also means honest, but it also means more things. Yeah, trustworthy. So this is the single most, you know, important thing that happens to Khadija radiallahu anha, that the Prophet ﷺ agrees to marry her. Yes.
Didn't she marry? Wasn't it also in her hand that because he's younger, he's also good for my business?
Yeah, I mean, she was looking at multiple things. That's right. But one of the main ingredients in all of this was someone who's honest, because the problem she's been facing in the past is dishonesty. And that's why maybe there were other people who approached her from the Quraysh, but she must have already had an idea of dealing with them and how dishonest they are, right? So she doesn't want anything to do with them. I mean, a lot of people, you know, they don't have scruples when it comes to marriage. Like, I know recently there was a girl, she was mutahajjiba, and she had said, I will not marry somebody who smokes or drinks or has any bad habits, etc., etc. And then someone sent her this proposal of a guy he's young, he's good looking. And of course, it seems like she's been taken in by his appearance because he smokes and he drinks. But she still married him. And now her hijab has come off. So you see, everybody does not have scruples when it comes to marriage. I mean, a lot of people will just go for external appearances. And that's enough for them. That's good enough. They don't care what happens after that. They don't think, I'm marrying the future father of my children, or the men don't think, I'm marrying the future mother of my children. You're just thinking, here, now, you know, the most attractive woman, the most attractive man, and we're going to have a great time. It's not a holiday. You know, marriage is half your religion. So it's something very serious. It's not a small matter. So, through this marriage, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honored Khadija radiallahu anha. Really, wallahi. It's like a huge, huge honor that Allah selected her to be the first person to marry him and to be the first person to become Muslim, when he becomes Muslim. Okay. And they stayed together for 25 years. Their marriage was, they were happily married for 25 years. And these were the best years of the Prophet ﷺ's life. And she bore him all his children, apart from one, right? Qasim, Abdullah, 4 of his daughters, Ruqayya, Kulthum, Fatima, Zainab, right? So if you think about it, right, he was 25. If he had married somebody younger, let's say somebody who's 20 or something like that, if we fast forward, because we don't know ghaib, right? That's why when things happen, we grumble and we complain, oh, my car broke down, oh, I wish that this didn't happen, and this is such a big problem for me now. But we don't know. There is some hikmah why your car broke down. Allah knows. You don't know. Or you take a certain route and you get stuck and you say, oh my God, I'm stuck in this traffic. Now I'm going to be late and I'm going to have this problem and that problem. There is some reason. Everything happens for a reason. If we fast forward, when the Prophet ﷺ gets the first revelation and he comes, and we will talk about that in detail inshallah, there is a certain way that she handles that situation. Can you imagine somebody who was younger than him? She would have packed her bags and gone back to her father's house and thought, I'm married to some guy who's possessed by jinn or something, get me away from this. So there's so much hikmah that he marries somebody who is older, and then when he becomes a prophet and he's just married to her, nobody else, she gives him a lot of stability, financial backing, lots of things that a younger wife probably most likely would not have been able to. She would have been dependent on him. In this marriage, it's more like he depends on her than she depends on him.
Economically, it's Khadija who worked the money.
In many ways, in many ways, she supported Islam in so many ways. That if it had been anybody else, right, as a young man, he would have married somebody younger, she would have been very dependent on him. She would have looked up to him for guidance. Whereas Khadija radiallahu anha, she was almost like, the foot in the ground. She held him down, she looked after him type of thing, So there's so much hikmah in that, and so that's why I wanted to elaborate on his marriage with Khadija radiallahu anha. And I want to pause there before I carry on and talk about the incident in the cave. So we will, inshallah, try and pick up on that next time. But I'm going to start telling you about the salah now. And then after salah, I will try and finish it off. Or shall I do the whole salah after salah? Does anybody need to go and make wudu? Yeah? So I'll wait. You can go and make wudu. And I don't want anybody to miss it. So we'll just wait, inshallah.
I saw that cave right here, right? Even in the museum. And how did she brought her servants with her? How in God's name did she climb that mountain?
At that age as well.
At that age, 60 maybe.
Yes.
Probably 60 at that time.
Yeah.
Climbing up those rocks.
Yeah.
And then it's a far off. It's a long distance off from Makkah.
Yeah, she was between 55 and 60 when she would go and deliver his provision to him.
She brought
Exactly.
her horses and her men, and who went up?
SubhanAllah.
that
Yeah.
cave? I couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
It's a very difficult climb. And like you said, that when you actually see it, that's why I keep saying during my durus, these are real people with real situations like us. They're not like some fairy tale world. They're real human beings. They have the same difficulties, the same shortcomings as we do. They have fears, they have hope, they have all sorts of things. So it's very overwhelming to see where that cave is, and to think of a woman climbing up that.
60-year-old woman climbing.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
I'll be gasping. I'm not saying my age, but I'll be gasping at this age.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
And it was a long way off from Mecca, so I
Yeah.
don't know where they
It was considered to be outside Mecca. You know, the Prophet ﷺ, when he would meditate, he would leave the city to go and just think about Allah, to contemplate, to reflect, you know, to do those kind of things. He would leave. Nowadays, it's considered, you know, within Mecca or part of Mecca, but that's because there's so much development now. But at that time, everything was happening near the Haram, near the Kaaba. And this was quite, you know, miles out, yeah. It was like 1 or 2 miles outside. So, any questions? So when I tell you about the Salah, inshallah, I will just go through the different movements of the Salah. And if you want to know specifically about something or the evidence for something, then you can ask me. But I'm not going to go into, you know, dalil right now. Otherwise, it will take a very long time because there are hadith for everything.
Did he continue on working with Khadija after they got married?
Yes.
He was the one going into
Yes,
caravans.
yes. He continued until, you know, obviously once he gets prophethood, then things change, yeah. Then he's busy with delivering the message, yeah.
So basically, had age 25 to age 40,
Yeah.
they had a mass wealth during that time.
You could say that, yeah. And Khadija was very soft in nature. You know, she was soft-hearted. She was not a harsh person. And that's why, you know, when they were boycotted in the valley for 3 years, when the Quraysh said, cut off ties with them, no business transactions, no intermarriages, no exchange of food, nothing. And they were dying of starvation. And there were children who would scream and cry until they died from hunger. And these are one of the things that caused Khadija radiallahu anha her last moments and her death. And she became sick during that time. And it was very heavy on her heart because she was very soft-hearted. It was very difficult for her to hear these screams and hear these children die and not be able to do anything and be helpless because it was a very serious boycott. So that helplessness and everything, that caused her sickness. And then eventually, you know, when the boycott finishes and she comes out, she remained unwell and then she passed away like that. That's why she passed away at 65. Otherwise, 65 is not such an old age to die. But yeah, that took its toll on her. So sorry, you know, I did say to you that we would talk about early prophethood and this first revelation, but I wanted to give you some background before. Because now that you have some background, when you hear about the first revelation and you hear how Khadija radiallahu handles it, it will mean more to you than if you just knew that she was an elderly woman that he had married, you know. Now it will mean more to you because it's almost like now you're getting to know her a little bit, you know, and how she is and who she is. So there's one other sister missing, right? Okay. So is there some time before Salah? Salah is going to happen in what? 5 minutes? 5 minutes, okay. Sometime, okay. So this thing has got very big sleeves, so I'm going to take this off so you can see my arms, and I want you to see the movements properly. If I do it here, can everybody see me here on this side? It's okay. Everybody can see me. So the first thing you do is you have niyyah, which is in your heart. It's not something that you say with your mouth. And once you have the niyyah, you know which salah you're doing, and it's a fard salah, how many rakahs it is and everything. It's all something that you are aware of. You don't have to say that. And then you say Allahu Akbar when you start. There are 3 descriptions of how the Prophet ﷺ said it, and one of the reasons he would have done things differently with a little bit of variation is just to allow, you know, that little bit of variation when people do it. So one of the ways he would do it, he would say Allahu Akbar. So the hands should be up to the shoulder or the ear. Okay? They should not be here. You see some people saying Allahu Akbar. I've seen people doing that in the mosque. These are just some mistakes that people make. Allahu Akbar. No. It's either Allahu Akbar, shoulder, or Allahu Akbar, up to the ears. Okay? The three ways he would do it is his hands are here, he says Allahu Akbar, and then he would put his hands on his chest. Or he would say Allahu Akbar as his hands are moving towards the chest during the motion, Allahu Akbar. And the third way he would do it is he would do this. Allahu Akbar. Okay, you got it?
Yeah.
Three ways.
Yeah. Allah.
Allahu Akbar, and then he would put his hands on his chest. Second way, as he's moving, Allahu Akbar. Third way, Allahu Akbar. Put his hands here, and then he would say Allah. Okay, so these are three. Any of these ways you do is acceptable.
Is it important to stick onto one way?
You don't have to. You can. Some people, they like to follow the Sunnah, so they say the Prophet ﷺ did this in this many ways, so we like to do it, different ways. So it's up to you. And the second thing is, unless it's a serious mistake, if you don't do something exactly the way I'm showing you today, or you see somebody who's not doing it exactly the way I'm showing it to you, it doesn't mean necessarily that their salah is invalid. It just means that they have not followed the Sunnah.
As
But
long
there
as
are
it's not one of the pillars.
As long as it's not one of the pillars. So the pillars is very serious. So if somebody is not fulfilling the pillars, then by all means stop them, speak to them, tell them, explain to them. But if there's some variations in certain actions, don't make it into a confrontation and argument. Some people will sit and start a huge discussion. Now, the second thing, which again there are a number of narrations about, is how he would keep his hand. And there are 3 authentic ways, actually 6 that I know of. If you know others, you can tell me, but please show the evidence for it. Okay? So the first way is the right hand on top of the left hand, on the chest. The chest is the part that goes from this bone here to this bone here, your sternum. Okay? So this part is considered the chest. Below this sternum is the stomach. And then there's the belly button, and then it's below the belly button. So you will see people praying like this, you will see people praying like this, and you will see people praying like this. So what's the thing that the Prophet ﷺ is narrated from him is he would keep his arms on his chest. When I say chest again, I've told you where the chest is from here to here. Anywhere in that place is alright. Whether you do like this, or you do like this, as long as it's within the chest. Okay? Yes, that's right. Right hand on top of left hand. 1. Right hand with this part of the hand on the wrist. Like that. Can you see? This is the second way. The third way is the hand on the forearm, just beyond the wrist. So I've seen people praying in all sorts of ways. This is all wrong, okay?
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Just
Ashhadu
behind
an
the
la
wrist.
ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna
I'll come
Muhammadan
back inshallah and tell you
Rasulullah.
the 3 other ways.
حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح أقام الصلاة
Yeah, you can have
أقام
it.
الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Okay, Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. So, continuing with the salah. So, I showed you 3 ways of putting the hand on the chest. One is the palm, the right palm on the left palm. This part of the palm on the wrist. And the entire palm, so this part starts on the wrist and it goes like that, on the forearm. Okay? But not much further away. It's very close to the hand. But just where this hand ends, this hand starts. These are the first 3 ways. And the other 3 ways are exactly the same thing, but instead of putting the hand, you can hold it. Yeah. Second position, you can hold it. Third position, you can hold it. So that's how it's 6 different positions. So either you keep it like that or you hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? Now you start with the dua, which is called istiftah. And there's many different types of du'as. It's good to memorize different du'as because it helps with your concentration and khushu in salah. Whereas if you just parrot the same things over and over again, it's almost like you're not even thinking about your action, you know. You're just doing it, yeah. Subhanakallah, you know. But if you think Okay, today let me say this dua. Today let me recite that dua. Then you're putting some thought into the action. So it's a bit more, it helps with your khushu than just saying what you always say. For example, there is a dua. Once the Prophet ﷺ, he was, I don't know if he was teaching or he was with the Sahaba, and he heard somebody say, Allahu Akbaru Kabira, walhamdulillahi kathira, wa subhanallahi bukratan wa asila. And he said, who said that? So one of the Sahaba, they said that, I said it. And he said, I was amazed because the doors of the heavens opened up when you said that. So you see, what I'm saying is that there are so many fadail in saying different kinds of things. We don't have time for this. We have time for recipes, we have time for restaurants, we have time for holidays, we have time for going to the tailor and explaining to him exactly how we want the clothes, not a button should be out of its place. We have time for all these things, but we won't make time to, memorize these different du'as. We should try and these are easy. Allahu Akbaru Kabira, walhamdulillahi kathira, wa subhanallahi bukratan wa asila. What is difficult in it, Okay.
So do we say that first?
Yeah, so if you want to start, you can either start with this, Subhanallah, Alhamdulillahi Kabira, Allahu Akbar Kabira, Walhamdulillahi Kathira.
This is after Eid Namaz, yeah? As well. Eid already, this one.
Yeah, you say this is in the Takbirat as well, that's right. Then there's another one, Allahumma ba'id bayni wa bayna khataya, yes. So there's different du'as. Whichever one you say that first. Because it's dua al-istiftah. It's the opening dua. And this dua, if you left it, it's not going to invalidate your salah. Okay, it's not from the arkan of the salah. Alright? Inshallah, maybe next lesson, I will tell you what are the arkan. There are 14 arkan of salah. I will take a picture, Rabina, and send it to you, and you can put it on the group. But those things you can't mess around with. Okay, but these things you can believe and you can so you start with the dua. You can say more than one, and you can just say one. It's up to you. No hard and fast rule. Then, just in the first rakah, you will say A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and recite Fatiha and a surah. In the remaining rakahs, you will just say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim and recite Fatiha. Only in the first one, you will say A'udhu billah. When you finished reciting, now you will count with me. There are only 3 times that you will raise your hand and say takbir, because people say it in the wrong place as well. So make sure you just do it in these 3 places. So we started with the takbir. Now before we go into ruku, we say Allahu Akbar. Again, the hands either go up to the shoulder or the ears, and you go into ruku. Now the ruku, you have to see me from the side, okay? First of all, you have to clasp your knees. So you open your hands and you clasp your knees like this. Okay? You hold your knees. It's not like this. It's not any other way, yeah? You hold your knee like that. And your back has to be perpendicular to your legs. It shouldn't be too low and it shouldn't be high. A lot of people, they do ruku like this. And some people, they do ruku like this. Both are wrong. Yeah, it has to be like that. Your head and your back should be in one line. Some people will keep their back straight, but then they'll do this.
But you have
That's all messed up. You have to look at the place of sujood, and you have to keep your back straight, and your knees are like that. And when the Prophet ﷺ would stand, his feet, the distance between his feet would be around the same distance as his the same place of his shoulders. Yeah. So like, depending on each person's size and body
And
size,
everything is the same
stand
for
like
women
that
as
so
well.
that everything is
men,
in,
women, same.
yes, it's the same as far as I know. Yes, from the starting you stand like that. You don't stand like that. No, stand like that. And yes, the Prophet ﷺ, when he prayed, he demonstrated a few times. He would go on the mimbar and he would do his salah, and these 4 words, they cover it all. He said, Salli kama ra'aytumuni usalli. 4 words. He said, pray as you have seen me praying. As far as I know, he did not say women should pray like this, men should pray. He just showed one way of salah, and he said, this is how you should pray. Okay? Okay, so then you've done ruku. In ruku, you will say Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, Subhana Rabbiyal Azim. Again, there are many du'as you can say. Subhana Rabbiyal Azim wa bihamdihi, Subbuhun Quddusun Rabbul Malaikati wa Ruh, Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdihi. So there are different, again, try and memorize some du'as. They are not very long, they are short, and you will get ajr for them, inshallah. And also it will just help you to concentrate more on your salah if you say different things rather than just like the same thing over and over. Okay, so after your ruku, now this is the third time you're going to raise your hands. You say Sami Allahu liman hamida. So when you are coming out of ruku, as you are raising your hands, you are saying Sami Allahu liman hamida, and you raise your hands to your shoulder or your ears. This is the only 3 times you raise your hands. When you come out of ruku, the scholars here in Saudi Arabia, they say that the Prophet ﷺ, there's no narration that states that when he was standing, that his hands were anywhere other than on his chest. So that's why when you come out of ruku, Sami Allahu liman hamida, your hands go back here. And this is, if you think about it, it's the most humble way to stand in front of someone. I know that some people stand like that after they come out of ruku. I don't know about the evidence for that, but I do know that the Prophet ﷺ is said to have never kept his hands anywhere else when he's in a state of qiyam. This is called qiyam, apart from on his chest. So you put your hands back here, and then when you go into sujood, you don't put your hands to your ears again. You don't raise your hands again, okay? So you just say Allahu Akbar and you go down. Now when you go down, your hands should touch the floor before your knees, because the Prophet ﷺ said, don't sit like the camel, right? So you go like that. Yeah? Not like that and then like that. Yeah? Can everybody at the back see as well? Yeah? So you go Allahu Akbar. Now, when you do sujood on 7 bones. Okay, what are they? So the forehead and the nose. Some people, they make sujood only on this. They do this.
And they don't touch the nose.
Yeah, they don't touch the nose. Can you see my head is on the floor, but my nose is not?
No, yes.
But it's like this.
First nose and then head.
It's the forehead and the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? Again, I will show it to you from the side. Your back should be straight in sujood. So you are like that. Your hands should be at the level of your ears, but some people do sujood like this. This is wrong.
Yeah.
It should be at the level of your ears, and your head should be between your hands. And the other thing that, could you guys see? The legs, yeah, I'll tell you about the feet. Did you guys see the trunk should not touch the thighs. So you'll see some people, they do sujood like this. So you see my body is touching my legs. This is wrong. Okay? You have to open your body and go down like this so that there's a gap between your chest and your thigh. Okay? And your arms should not be like that. The Prophet ﷺ forbade sitting like the dogs. Yeah? So there should be a gap between your arm and your sides. Like that. And the Prophet ﷺ is said to have made a gap enough for a baby lamb to be able to pass through. So it's like a big gap. As for your feet, it has to be, the little toe should be on the ground. Not just the big toe. The big toe is on the ground anyway. The little toe should be on the ground like that. And the feet should be together. Not like that. Not like that. I've seen some people doing sujood like that. Their feet are in the air. Yeah, people are doing all sorts of things, and I'm thinking, is he about to take off? But so it's like that, okay? Firm, and they are firm on the ground, yeah, and the toes are facing the qibla, okay?
The fingers should be...
the toes should be like that, so they're facing the qibla.
I mean the hand fingers should be together.
The hand fingers, yeah, that's also another thing, It's not like that. And it's like that, okay?
But ruku it is spread
Ruku
out.
it's spread out. Ruku is the only place where it's spread out. On the chest and in sujood, the hands are like that, together, okay? The fingers are together. When you're raising your hands to start the salah, when you say Allahu Akbar, you don't do this And you don't do this. You just keep it normal, yes, with just a little normal gap between the fingers. You don't have to do this when you say Allahu Akbar, okay? Yeah. Okay, when you come out of sujood, you sit in a position called iftirash, okay? You sit on the base of the left foot. Your bottom should be on your left foot, and your right foot is propped up like this. So you see, I'm sitting on this foot. You can see the foot. And this foot is propped up and the toes are facing the Qibla. This is the way you sit between two sajdas. And this is the way you sit in the second rak'ah. When you reach the last rak'ah, you sit in a different position. Your foot goes, your bottom is on the floor and your foot comes out on this side. If you can see from the back,
the right leg.
the foot is, this is propped up and this is under this leg.
Right leg.
Okay, and this is the position in which you will sit at the end of the salah, at the end of the third rak'ah or 4 rak'ah prayer. Some difference about Fajr salah because it's 2 rak'ahs. So some people said the Prophet ﷺ will sit like this, like he would sit in between, and some people said because it's the ending of a salah he would sit like this. There are 2 other positions. You can sit with this foot out and straighten your toes. This is also permissible. Or you can sit with your foot above the leg. That is also permissible. Okay, yeah. There are different positions to sit. And I think that's it. Those are the positions that I can
And the
recall.
other thing, I saw the people, they are when standing after Tahiyyat, they again say Allahu Akbar.
Yeah,
That's
so
it.
so you don't have to say it apart from the third rak'ah. If you are standing up, you're praying a 4 rak'ah prayer, you are in tashahhud, so you're reading at-tahiyyat. I will come to at-tahiyyat as well. When you finish that and you're standing up for the third rak'ah now, at that time you will say Allahu Akbar and then continue. So that's the only other time that you raise your hands. Otherwise, generally in the prayer,
And the other rak'ah, no.
no.
Yeah, but the
You just have those
they are
3
doing in the
takbir.
4
Yeah, they're
rak'ah,
doing it
I
in
saw,
all. Yeah. People are even doing it before sajda. So it's just the beginning takbir, the takbir before ruku,
And after
the takbir after ruku, and the takbir for the third rak'ah.
Before the sajda?
No. And you don't do it for any other rak'ah apart from when you're standing up for the third rak'ah. So you will do it in Maghrib and in any 4 rak'ah prayer.
Yeah.
Okay?
So after the 2 you're doing, no?
Yes, after the 2 rak'ahs, when you finish tashahhud and you're standing up for the third, that's when you say Allahu Akbar. You know, in the beginning, when there was no salah, I mean, salah had not been obligated, they used to pray two units. Tahajjud was fard on them. Yes, that is what was developing their iman and building them up before everything else started happening. Tahajjud was fard on them. There was no salah, and tahajjud was 2 units, 2 units, 2 units. And now when salah started like this, it became 4 units or 3 units or different number of units. So it's almost like a break between the 2 rakahs. Even Jummah, Salat al-Jummah, it's 2 rakahs. The khutbah, if has 2 parts,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The imam sits down and then he stands up. That is representing the first 2 rakahs.
But like,
And then when you pray, it's the last 2 rakahs. It's a 4-unit prayer still. That's why the khutbah is so important. And sometimes some imams, they forget. Like there was an imam, he used to forget a lot. Even in salah he would forget. So he forgot and he read the khutbah and he only read one part of the khutbah. And he prayed Jummah. And then one of his students, he went later on and he asked an alim, and he said that, the khatib, he only recited one part of the khutbah. He forgot that this is the first part. He didn't do the second part of the khutbah. He said you should make up that salah because it is deficient. It's just like missing 1 rakah from your prayer. So that those first 2 parts of the khutbah are the first 2 rakahs. Okay. So when you are sitting down,
you
yes.
know when like you're doing the first 2 rakahs and when you get up for the second one, do you do this?
No, not for the second one, just for the third one.
How do you? No, for the like second rakah, like you said third and fourth, you do that.
No, not third and fourth, just the third.
Just the third. After the
Yes, after the first and second rakah, when you stand up for the third, that's when you say Allahu Akbar.
So how do you get up?
You're in sujood. Okay. Get up. Allahu Akbar.
So then you're raising your hand. You're raising your hand.
It's for the third rakah.
I'm saying the second one. For the second
You
one.
just fold your arms.
Second, not
Just
for the
fold your arms.
second, not for the fourth. Only for the third.
So then you just get up and you just do this. You don't do this.
Yes, for the other rakahs, you would say Allahu Akbar. And then you just come up and your hands go back on your chest. But for this one, for the third rakah, let's say you're sitting and you're reading tashahhud, At-tahiyyatu lillahi wa salawat, and then you have to stand up for the third rakah. So you would say
Yes, sit.
Allahu Akbar. Only for the third.
The third rakah and the first.
The first rakah is when you're starting.
So then there's only two.
There are only three takbir. Yeah, because you don't have to
Mama. Mama. What's happening?
That's nothing. Can you sit on the side?
वो पाँव जो है ना आपका उसकी राइट पाँव के नीचे होना चाहिए सज्जा नीचे होएगा खबर नीचे होएगा
Yeah. So you see, that's what I'm saying.
सज्जे के नीचे होगा आपके हिप्स के नीचे नहीं होगा हिप्स आपके फ्लोर पे होंगे ऐसे हाँ ऐसे
So when you sit on the floor, there's no exercise.
देखिए ना आप बैठते हैं ना आसानी के लिए आप देखिए आपको
Mama, no.
हिप्स आपके फ्लोर पे होंगे पाँव आपके इस तरह होना चाहिए या इस तरह होना चाहिए और रखा है आपका पाँव इस तरह होना चाहिए और आप अपने पाँव पे बैठेंगे हिप्स पे ही बैठेंगे जब फिर आपने रखा is it similar to फ्लोर पे पाँव पे नहीं बैठे तीन रकाओं में we haven't finished लेफ्ट फुट पे बैठे और पाँव आपका इस तरह होना चाहिए
Again, you don't need to do that. Try to follow the sunnah. The Prophet ﷺ. Just like, for example, ghusl on Friday. If you just stood under the shower,
ये आपके लिए आसानी है आप कितनी कंफर्टेबल है इस तरह
but if you
हम इस तरह कंफर्टेबल नहीं है क्योंकि आपको वो जो हील है आपको चुभ रही होती है आपके हिप
Everything's beautiful.
Now it's finished.
So going back to tashahhud, listen to this.
हिप्स जो है ना फ्लोर पे लगाओ तब कंफर्टेबल होगी
So you see, some people, they just sit like this. They just sit like this.
ये रॉन्ग है
So this is not from the sunnah, but I mean, if you can't sit like that,
But we can't judge if someone is sitting like that whether they are.
you don't know if they have problems.
Yes.
You don't know.
Sometimes if you're so squished during Juma, that's why you end up sitting like that.
Yeah, I mean,
Sometimes, but this is the ideal way. Ideal way. If you have problem or needs and something, you can according to that. Yes.
that's why I'm saying that as long as it's not a rukun that you're here. I see so many Pakistani women in the haram. They do their faraid salah from beginning to end sitting down. And then I think, oh, maybe she can't walk or something. As soon as the salah finishes, she stands up and she walks off. And I think, what's she doing? That means that she could stand. But in Pakistan, for some reason, it's thought that it's okay to just sit and pray all your salawat, And standing qiyam is a rukun of the salah. That's why you can't just sit in the car or sit in the plane unless there is a need, If they're not allowing you to pray anywhere else and salah time is going, then you sit and pray. Because now you are about to miss your salah. But if there is no such thing, then you must try and pray your salah standing. Qiyam is the rukun of the salah. Okay. So you come out of sajda and you say, either you say the shortest thing, which is Rabbi ghfirli, Rabbi ghfirli, or you say Allahumma ghfirli warhamni wahdini. Okay, so memorize some of these du'as, yes. And then you just sit like that while you say your du'as, and then you say Allahu Akbar, and you go back into sujood the same way. Say Subhana Rabbiyal A'la. You can make du'a in Arabic, in your own language, it's up to you. The main thing that I want to tell you about Salah is that there are people who pray and there are people who don't pray, right? There are two types of people. People who pray, people who don't pray. People who don't pray, it's a whole other subject, right? They are either fasiq or kafir. People who pray fall into two categories. People who pray have either prayed or they have not prayed. You don't want to be in that category. The Prophet ﷺ, he was sitting in the masjid, Sahaba walked in, he did 2 rakahs, he came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah. He said, Salli fa innaka lam tusalli. So he went back, because they didn't, argue and answer back like we do today. It was sami'na wa ata'na. He went back, he did his salah again, came back, he said, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. He said, Salli fa innaka lam tusalli. So he went back the second time, came back, third time, the Prophet ﷺ said the same thing to him. He went back, prayed again and came back. The Prophet ﷺ said to him again, he said, go back and pray, you haven't prayed. He said, oh Messenger of Allah, he said, I don't know any better way than this. And so then the Prophet ﷺ told him how to pray. So it's very dangerous that you might be, you might have spent the last 40, 50 years praying and you have not prayed. That those salahs are, they have not even left the top of your head. Because when a person prays, a 10th is accepted, a 9th is written down for him, an 8th is written down for him, a 7th is written down for him, a 6th is written down for him, a 5th, a 4th, which is a quarter, a 3rd, and then half. As in, when you do your salah, only that much of your salah is actually accepted, like a 10th or a 9th or an 8th, because that's how many deficiencies our salah has. And when the Prophet ﷺ said, Bunya al-Islamu ala khamsin, ash-shahadatu an la ilaha illallah, wa iqam as-salah. Nowhere does it say, wasalli. It doesn't say just pray. It says establish salah, iqam as-salah. And establishing salah, part of establishing salah is praying it properly. This man, he prayed. He came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, Salam, he had prayed. And the Prophet ﷺ said, you have not prayed. So we shouldn't just blindly go with what we've learned as, in our youth or something. Now we're intelligent, alhamdulillah. I mean, if I'm making dal and it doesn't taste nice, I will go to this channel and that sister and that person and tell me how to make really tasty dal. I'm going to get it right this time, right? Or I want to learn how to make biryani. I mean, these things are more complicated. You must pick up a book and find out what is the correct way to pray. And find out, am I praying the right way? We read so many other things.
Even on the YouTube, if you enter, it will give you salah by...
It's very important that we see how we have to pray and we pray correctly.
Huh? No, but I see 2-3 times, but the same way.
Yeah, just make sure you don't see anything dodgy and anything like
there is
conflicting.
there is 2 or 3 people who says there is a different phase of woman is different,
Yeah.
so much argument is going
Just
on.
make sure that whether it's a book or a person that you follow, it is correct and it is according to Sunnah and it has some evidence to back it up, because a lot of people say a lot of things, so you can't just go by everything they say. Okay, so you recite. So yes, the main thing I'm telling you is the Prophet ﷺ, he said that when you do salah, in every position, your bones should come to their place and you should be relaxed and comfortable in that position. That's why you can't pray fast. I still remember as a teenager, I attended a dars once. Inshallah, that sister will get the reward for all my salahs. She just said this thing, that the Prophet ﷺ said that all your bones must come to rest and you must be relaxed in that position. It transformed my salah. I don't know how much ajr she will get for just those words, because that makes a huge difference to your salah.
Yeah.
Now it becomes from,
If you tense your body, you are tense.
from this it becomes now.
The Ferrari salah.
It's a very sorry.
The Ferrari salah.
Yeah, this is like some aerobics lesson. I've prayed in some masajid and oh my goodness. It's like he just can't, pray faster than this. And I'm thinking, what, is there some appointment he has, or what is the rush, But very, very slow. All your bones are in place. Allahu Akbar. You go in ruku, stay there. Hold it until your bones are all relaxed, comfortable in their place.
Even the du'as that he
Then come out.
it makes you relax.
Yeah.
The du'as,
And the thing is,
extra du'as,
in between, I've seen people rush the most. Like when they come out of ruku, they think, okay, there's no need to stand for this, Stand. You know, the Sahaba, they say that the Prophet ﷺ, his breaks between the sajda and sometimes when he would come out of ruku was so long that they would sometimes think he's forgotten to go back into, you know, sajda. Because this is how much time, and he would be constantly making dua. I mean, when you have said, Sami Allahu liman hamida, you are saying that Allah listens to those who praise Him. Now praise Him! You want Allah to listen to you, so praise Him. Allahumma rabbana lakal hamd hamdan kathiran tayyiban mubarakan fi, you know, make dua. Why are you losing this opportunity? You are yourself saying Sami Allahu liman hamida, and then you just want to lose the chance. So stand, wait until you feel relaxed and comfortable. There is no rush. For God's sake, don't leave the iron on or the pot on the stove and then come into your salah. So that your shaitan is constantly telling you, hurry up, you know, your pot is going to, the rice is going to boil over. Don't do things like that, you know. Turn everything off, you know, make some preparation for this. Just like you make preparation for a party or something like that, you know. Like if you have a farewell party, and it's just for your friends, you know, you will make arrangements for the children so that the children are not in the party and they're not disturbing you. You know, you make arrangements. So
A friend of mine used to like set a half an hour thing so she would know what surah she's going to
yes, that's so important.
So at half an hour, I'm going to pray now. I was in her house. I'm going to pray now. I'll be like half an hour.
Yes.
So, and
Nowadays, people say, oh, just give me 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's just 4 rakats. I'll be done in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that people who take time to pray, oh my goodness, everybody pounces on them. What are you doing? Are you praying Taraweeh? And then, you know,
My husband saying to me like this.
unknown, yes.
You're esteeming the housework.
Remember when you do salah, that this is the most important thing you are doing in your entire day. This is why Allah created you and put you on this earth. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded us to pray 50 times a day. Mathematicians, that would be what, every half an hour? And then He abrogated that to 5 times. That means, technically, we're meant to be praying every half an hour. And those 5 prayers, oh my God, it's like a huge jihad for us, you know, how are we going to fit the salah in? But this is what we are meant to be doing, and this is the most important thing you are doing in your entire day, more than anything else. So just remember, when you stand to pray, just tell yourself, you know, that this is what I'm here for. And you know, some points about khushu, for example, you know, think about it this way. Think this might be your last salah, right? Be grateful that Allah gave you the opportunity to stand and pray, because there are many people who don't pray, and that's because Allah has not guided them to pray. So be grateful that Allah, you know, be humble and thankful that you know, you are such a sinful person and still Allah gave you the chance to stand and prostrate in front of Him. This is one of the punishments of the people on the day of judgment, you know, that their backs will be, their bone will be fused, so they can't bow. You know, so this is a big musibah. And you know, make variations. Like she said, you know, prepare for the salah. Open the mushaf and say, I will read these 2 verses today. Even if you read 1 ayah in the first rakah and 1 ayah in the second rakah, just make it different. Every single time, you know, if you read the same thing, it just makes it monotonous and you can't concentrate on your salah. Whereas if you read something new, it will help you to pay attention to what you're saying. So, okay.
Another thing I want to make sure that in sujood, I heard there are lots of dua in the Quran. So we can't read the Quran.
You can't recite the Quran, but if you read a dua with the intention of dua, like Rabbana atina fid dunya hasana, you can read it with the intention of dua, not reciting Quran. Okay. So tashahhud, you all know, at-tahiyyatu lillahi was-salawatu wat-tayyibatu, assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabiyyu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. For the tashahhud, you either make a fist with your hand and point your finger. You can either keep it straight, as far as I know, or you move it, but very slowly. You'll see some people doing this. As far as I know, that is not in keeping with the whole essence of the salah, because if you see, everything in salah is going slowly. So even the finger, if you move it, just move it slowly. Just at-tahiyyatu lillahi was-salawatu wat-tayyibatu, assalamu alayka ayyuhan, slowly. Or you close these 2 fingers, you make a circle with the middle finger and the thumb, and you point your finger. So either you make a fist or you do this.
This pointing is throughout the
Tashahhud.
Not it's just one point and.
No.
Okay, we just do it at Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. So you just do it throughout this.
Yes. Then you stand up. So when you're standing up for the second rakah, you are just going to stand up, girls. You're just going to stand up and you just do this. No raising hands, okay? You can either move your finger.
Isn't it like keep it like this the whole time?
And you can also just keep it like that.
But why do some people keep it down and then they do this when they
I don't know, but definitely don't do this. Don't do this. Whatever you do, don't do this. Either like this or like this, but not like this. Okay? The hand is not straight. Fatima, go and sit down. No, that's enough. Sit down. No, it's okay. I don't know which ones of you have actually eaten. I think my kids have not had dinner and they have eaten cake.
No, it's okay.
Have you had some?
No, I haven't.
You didn't have some last time as well.
You know, she's dieting. She cannot.
Is it forced time? By Ravi?
So either you make a fist like that, or you close these two fingers and do this, and you say Attahiyatu Lillahi, just keeping it straight, or you say Attahiyatu Lillahi.
But for the whole Attahiyatu, no?
The whole Attahiyatu.
And for the
There's no particular point at which you move it. Just your own
I
self.
heard
just do it
that,
slowly.
I heard even the Pakistani ulama and the here ulama, they said this is also the way of saying dua or asking for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is it right?
I don't know, I have not heard that. I just know that it's very hard on the shaitan when you move your finger.
what did you say we shouldn't do?
You should like raise it only for some parts of the salah.
What
It's just
about
like random.
do you do it for the
No. Yeah, because it's also it's like that's
And only for
The whole thing.
Yes.
Only for
Attahiyat to the end. Not in between the sajda. In between the sajda, you just keep your hands open.
I heard also, but it is not.
The best time to make dua is before taslim, before you make salam. That is the best time to make dua and a very good time for dua to be accepted. I don't think you can make it in your own language. You would have to make it in Arabic. But you can memorize. There's so many excellent duas. اللهم اغفر لي ذنبي كله دقه وجله أوله وآخره وعلانية وسره. Also there is
Or can you read from a book during that time?
not for the fard salah. For the sunan you can, and then just learn it off by doing it a few times. There's another one which is really, really common, but it's not coming to my mind right now. But no, it's another one. It is just it's a dua. It's not from the Quran. اللهم إني ظلمت نفسي ظلما كثيرا فاغفر لي ولا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت. Okay? So there are many du'as. I mean, the main thing is you want forgiveness and then the other thing that you must do is seek refuge in Allah from the four things. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-hammi wal ghammi wal huzni wal bukhli. No. The Dajjal and Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-qabr. So that will cover it.
And fitna mahya
Okay, so that dua again, you just open any of the dua books and you will find it, inshallah. So memorize that. That you must read at least after the fard salah. Okay, even if you don't do it after the sunan. And what's the other thing I was going to tell you? Salam, taslim. So when you finish, you say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Okay, you don't say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And you don't say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And some other things. And some people do this. It's not a neck exercise. It's not a stretch exercise. But when the Prophet ﷺ would make taslim, the people could see the whiteness of his cheek. So you say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I mean, you turn quite properly to the side, but some people overdo it and they say Assalamu alaikum. And they're looking at the people in the back row, So it's not like that. It's just
Question. Question.
Oh yes. When you stand up from sujood, one thing is that sometimes, I'm not sure if it is every time or sometimes, but the Prophet ﷺ, like for example, let's say it's a rakah where you don't have to sit, like the first rakah, right? So in the first rakah you've done sujood. When you come out of sujood, sometimes he would sit briefly, and then he would stand up. Okay? So it's not a tashahhud sitting, but it's just a break sitting, and then he would stand up. When he would stand up on his fist, rather than standing up on fingers. Yeah, on fingers. Yeah.
But that short sitting, was that for a purpose he did because he was ill or something like that? I heard something like that because the context was.
I'm not sure. I'll try and look it up. But he would sit in iftirash.
Do you have to say? Sorry.
Yeah.
Do you have to say? Can you say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh?
Yes, you can.
For both sides.
Yes, for both sides.
You can really.
For both
You
sides,
can.
I'm not sure.
You can't say that.
I know you can say it for one side.
The right side. You can't say
You can say it for one side.
No, so say
I'm not sure. I'll have to look that up. Can you just remind me? Just send me your
I'll
questions.
remind you.
There's another thing I said about oh yeah, the sitting and this assalamu alaikum.
And also,
just one last point that I would just mention is that Salah is the only thing that was not sent down, that the Prophet ﷺ went up for, and all the other arkan of Islam, zakah, you only pay if you have the nisab. Hajj, it has even more conditions. You only go if you're able to go. Fasting, if you're sick, if you're pregnant, you can. Salah is the only thing, no excuse unless you are unconscious. No excuse. Even if you can't sit up, you can't stand, you pray with your eyes, you pray with your finger, you have to do salah. This is the distinction between iman and kufr. Okay, so salah is very, very important, and it is very, very important to pray it correctly. Because imagine years and years and years of salah, and you go on Yawm al-Qiyamah and you find out zero in my record. What's going on? You know, I was praying, but you never bothered to find out how to pray. So make
For
sure.
women, we have to cover our feet as well.
Yes, the tops of your feet should be covered. If you don't want to wear socks for any reason, just take any cloth or any towel or something, just put it on your feet while you pray, and then, when you finish, you can just move it. And if there's any other questions, please ask me. Maybe I've forgotten something, I can't remember. But that's it, I think. Yeah, they say that the earth will sanctify. Allahu Alam, I've heard that as well, and then I heard that it wasn't just like that. So I can't remember now. If you can just send me your questions. One is this. Somebody asked about saying Assalamu alaikum. And about sitting just before standing up. Yeah, that was just like that. So just send me the questions. Okay, وسبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.